Hey, welcome back, Duck Badger Radio. 121, still 95 degrees, so we're holding steady out there. High today of 92, according to the weather staff here at AM 950.
The heat index of 197.
I will shut off your mic.
Look out. Look out.
It's almost like those weather things were pre-recorded.
Yeah, it's almost like they record them in the morning and then run them all day long.
Yeah.
Hey, we're having a conversation here with Jeffrey Pugh. He's the author of a book called Devil's Ink blog. A Devil's Ink blog from the basement office. Ask the question, what if Satan had a blog? And we could get inside the mind of what evil is up to in our world. And so, Jeff, thanks for the book. And again, thanks for being on the show. You write 167 blog posts from Satan. How did you end up choosing the topics you were going to write about and the content for each of them? Were you taking real life circumstances over the period of time that you were writing the book and commenting on them, or did you have a list of topics that you wanted to cover?
Another book project that summer, and what happened is that I would just sit down at the computer at night as a way of sort of relieving myself from the day's research, and I just started typing about things that annoyed me.
Oh, interesting. Some of us have radio shows for that.
Yeah, and so there were just a lot of things that I thought needed addressing. Torture needed addressing. The apologists for torture needed to be confronted. There was just a certain sort of theme that kept running over and over and over, and as I kept writing, anything that sort of popped into my head. So,
and you really have a wide range of topics that you want to reference, and some of them might be your typical religious ideas that people want to go after of not taking care of the poor and of self-absorbed lives and that kind of thing. But then you move into some much more delicate territory and start having real conversations about political agendas and about consumerism, about the way that people live their lives in areas that they might see as positive. You bring a spin on them and say, "Hey, look, there might be something more going on here than you're aware of."
Right. Yeah, I've actually just recently been aware that there was a review of the book that attacked me for fomenting class warfare.
Oh.
And I kept thinking that's not what I meant to do, but if
because they read you carefully and said, look, you're trying to suggest that when you have systems that reward certain segments of our population so disproportionately, that there's got to be something going on there that's not an equal playing ground.
Well, even more than that, the way that power and money end up corrupting the body politic.
Mm-hmm.
So that what happens is that power begins to accrue into a ever smaller circle of actors.
Mm-hmm.
And when that happens, then the corruption that we see, for instance, in London, in England right now, and that's going to, the story of that is going to increasingly come out, the corruption that ends up becoming so consolidated into a small group of people, that has, once again, material effects. It will shut out opportunity to larger groups of people. It will take a society into areas where people will start finding themselves increasingly divided from one another and not living under the sense that they exist within a community.
I heard something interesting in a news report this week from a commentator who said one of the issues in the UK, where what's going on here with Rupert Murdoch's newspapers and the influence of newspaper and media in politics in the UK, part of the issue is that because spending on campaigns is so limited, that politicians really feel like we have to stay in the good graces of the media because we don't have any way to go around them. So because of the limitations of financing campaigns, you have to become beholden to the people who have the biggest microphone. Isn't that an interesting, like in our country, we tend to say it's all that money being spent on campaigns that causes the problem. And they're saying it's because you can't spend any money on the campaigns that it becomes the problem.
Yeah, and
really makes you start wondering.
Yeah, in some ways, Satan thinks that all politics are his domain anyway. I mean, because if you think about it, politics is the art of dividing people from one another. I mean, evil hopes that we will stand at a distance from one another regarding, our friends, sort of from this position of cool distance. Do they want to take what's mine? And the minute that we start dividing people off from one another, once again, the societies that you create will eventually have very harmful effects to those people who do not have access to power.
Well, and that's a theme, I think, that comes up a number of times in the book. You write about, not politics in this case, that was the section I want to read for you, but in the terms of religion. The blog title was "As Pure as the Driven Snow."
Yes.
And you have this little paragraph where you write, all the religious, this is now the voice of this is Satan being the one who's writing this blog post to his readers and confidants. So Satan would write, all the religious stories that they tell one another have the effect of legitimating their particular people through something beyond their world. God, or whatever they want to call the thing, makes them special. They are the chosen, or the saved, or the people, whatever. The delusion is the same among them. They often take their own particular story and make it an absolute and universal one, and then measure all other stories told against their own. And so that's the kind of development of an idea that you do in these blog posts. And there you're trying to suggest that people who are in religious circles are by no means creating a better world necessarily, that people still have to work at it.
Yeah, and this is that paragraph that you read, I mean, cuts to the heart of the challenge for people of Christian faith.
Yeah.
Because there is something that is central to their understanding of faith that's found in the incarnation. And so it becomes very difficult then for folks to start to think about the fact that, is this story that I have staked my life on so unique that it belongs only to me? And even Lewis, I got into a fight about this one time with someone who was arguing with me about Rob Bell's book, and I said to them, just go back and read The Last Battle of C.S. Lewis. Go back and read God in the Dock. Go back and read Lewis carefully, because Lewis says we simply do not know the arrangements that God has made for other people. Now, having said that, I still feel compelled myself to try to live out of that good news that I am loved, and if loved, I am forgiven.
And that's Jeff Pugh. He's the author of a helpful and clever book called Devil's Ink, Blog from the Basement Office. You can find it, obviously, on Amazon, all the online retailers, but also at your bookstore. And if they don't have it, ask them to carry it. Jeff, thanks for being on the show.
Thanks, Doug.
And you can find devilsinkblog.com and find out all the rest of it. We're going to be back with the advice guru, Carla Barnhill. Jeff, thanks again for being on the show. And folks, pick up the book Devil's Ink. We'll be back here after the break on AM 950, the Progressive Voice of Minnesota, DougPagittRadio.com.
Army Specialist Lance Gieselman was paralyzed when his tank was blown up in Iraq.
I was an homeless survivor.
Paralyzed Veterans of America is an independent organization dedicated to ensuring our injured veterans get all the benefits they've earned and need. Paralyzed Veterans Senior National Service Officer Anthony Steele.
I'm willing to do whatever it takes to serve our veterans.
If you would like to help our veterans, visit pva.org, a public service of Paralyzed Veterans of America.
This is Julia Nekesa Opoti, host of Reflections of New Minnesotans. We provide a platform for Minnesota's diverse immigrants. We also look at how immigrants impact the state and how Minnesota is responding. Tune in every Saturday at 2 p.m. Brought to you by the Language Bank, providing culturally appropriate translation services, Pro Healthcare, providing personal care assistance, and Midwest Careers, a training institute with emphasis on allied health professions.
There are plenty of myths about solar energy, especially in the North Country, but All Energy Solar would like to put these myths to rest once and for all. Innovations in solar energy over the last 30 years have led to a renaissance of technology that is now available to everyone with a custom-designed solar system from All Energy Solar. You can watch your meter spin backwards all year long.